NAACP, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, Kansas City, the Urban Summit, and National Black United Front, Kansas City. We have joined with the People's Coalition to hold this press conference today to stand in solidarity with the Ralph Yarl family as they navigate this process to achieve and secure justice for Ralph. We send them our prayers. We want to let them know that we will be standing firm with them. We are delighted that charges were filed against Andrew Lester. We were disappointed that Andrew Lester had the opportunity to practically escape justice. We're glad he is now in custody. But those two things, the filing of the charges and the arresting of Yarl, that's just the beginning of a long process. Those are the first steps on the pathway to justice for Ralph Yarl. We are also here today to talk about the rise of hate and violent crimes in this country and right here in Kansas City.
That's right.
The gun violence that is perpetrating, is prolific across our community. We're concerned about that. And we're concerned about racism and hatred that feeds this level of violence that we're experiencing. So we're going to talk about how do we get here? And it's really important to understand the history. How do we get here? And to understand that that racial hatred and implicit bias permeates our culture, and it impacts every aspect of Black lives.
That's right.
We are challenged just walking while Black, eating while Black, swimming while Black, living while Black, driving while Black is a problem. And now we can't even walk up to someone's door and ring a doorbell without fear of being murdered. So there's a lot to be done here, a lot of work to be done here in Kansas City, and we want the community to know that we are a united front. We believe in our city, and we're going to fight to save it and to reduce the crime and violence that we're experiencing, especially race-motivated crime and violence. If you pay attention to what's going on in this country, hate crimes have increased more than 44% since 2021. We have prolific access to guns throughout our community. We have a hostile Missouri state legislature that continues to pass legislation that makes it easier to get a gun than should be. We're not against the right to own a gun to protect your personal property in your home, but to have assault rifles and all of these weapons in our community, unconscionable. So we are also concerned about the threat to our education system, the censorship of our curriculum, the banning of books in the classroom, the censorship relative to the teaching of African studies and African American history. All of these things lead to what we are dealing with today. Those things contribute to Andrew Lester, his implicit bias showing up explicitly and causing bodily harm to Ralph Yarl. So you'll be hearing many of our people speak here today about these issues. We believe that this was a race and hate motivated crime.
That's right.
And we want the federal government, the FBI, to conduct a hate crime investigation.
That's right. True.
So we that is of the essence here. We want people to know that you will pay a severe price.
That's right.
If you shoot someone for ringing your doorbell simply because, for any reason, but because of the color of their skin. He has not, I don't see any evidence that this man has shot anyone other than a Black person for ringing his doorbell. So clearly, that's a hate-motivated crime. So as we get on to this, we're going to try to move quickly because the sun is hot. We have several people here who are going to speak today, and they don't know in which order I'm calling them. But so we will start with the Reverend Dr. Vernon Howard. who is the president of SCLC Kansas City.
Firstly, we want to reiterate the message just given by Ms. Grant that we firmly believe that an investigation of race and hate as a motivating factor in the shooting of Ralph Yarl must take place. There is no denying the racial component of this shooting. We cannot deny that the state of Missouri is one of the most unsafe places for black people in America. We cannot deny that many communities north of the river, which are predominantly white, do not have, as a matter of practice, a large number of black and African American people. Thus, there is not in many communities and among many people an acceptance and embracing of black people and people of color. We must be honest about America's racist past and how it continues to operate in current day settings. I believe on last week when Ralph Yarl was shot, that Jim Crow came face to face with the beauty of blackness. When he was shot last week, Jim Crow came face to face with black joy, black accomplishment, black beauty, black excellence, black innocence, black talentedness, black gifts, and simply told it, get away from here, and picked up a gun and shot it. Not once, but twice. This was heinous, it was evil, it was criminal in our opinions, and no longer will we sit back and be silent as it happens to our children. I'll clap myself for that. Finally, as president of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, we are a nonviolent people, which does not mean that we lack courage, which does not mean that we will not confront, which does not mean that we will be weak. And we stop by to tell you today, and history bears it out, that a charge does not mean justice.
That's right. That's right.
We are not canceling any press conferences, any actions, until there is an arrest, which we understand that there is, until there is an imprisonment, until there is an indictment, and then until there is actually a verdict that holds Mr. Lester accountable for what he has done to a black child. Finally, in the name of Jesus Christ, we call upon all of Kansas City, all of the metro, all of the state of Missouri to understand that there is nothing the justice system can do to repair what Ralph Yarl has lost. Therefore, what is real justice? I'm glad you asked. That never again, never again, never again, never again, never again, in the name of Jesus Christ, will hate and racism take away the health and beauty and future of a black child. God bless you and God keep you.
Good afternoon. My name is Bishop Frank Douglas, and I'm representing the Urban Summit. No more will our voices be silent. No more will our voices be silent. No more will our voices be silent. Regardless to whatever time of night it is, Mr. Lester has been on the earth for 84 years, and we will not take anything short of justice this coming year. This is just day 2.
Say it, Bishop.
This is just day 2. I think we get amped when we start a thing. I don't see any of my vanilla clergy like I would like to see them when we want to be together and have kumbaya moments. This is important. This was a child, 16 years of age. Look around you. Does not matter. We're all in the human race, but until it's 10 o'clock at night, we're not in the race anymore. And we are tired. We are tired of these type of tragedies and it being passé in our community. That young black man is just as important as any vanilla brother or sister that's standing here. His life matters. I know people are getting tired of words like wokeness. I've been woke most of my life. And sometimes y'all remind me at 10 o'clock at night. And if a grown man has to be reminded, this should never even have to happen to that young man with how brilliant his life had been up until this point. Now I want to say something to you. My dear friend Dr. Howard says that we're fronting Jim Crow. I want to say to you, we are facing American apartheid. Apartheid is anytime there is separateness in the way you view another human being based on nothing but what you see. And we are tired of American apartheid. Well, somebody said it like this. Well, we come out of eras. We haven't come out of an era. We're just bringing the spotlight to what's been going on over 150 years since the Emancipation Proclamation. We got a so-called freedom, but then we didn't get love. See, love is at the root of this. And I want to see, I have a lot of people that call Bishop Douglas when I have to go south and I have to go west. But I want to see you showing up, brother clergy. Sister clergy, I see, and I'm appreciative of the ones that's here, but it's way more people that call me all the time that need to be standing up for this chocolate little boy.
Come on, Bishop.
Amen.
Come on, Bishop.
It's way more.
Come on, Bishop.
I don't care what you got you going on today, it's way more. And I'm gonna end with this. It's been said by Reverend Jesse Jackson that we treat different situations different. They say when two blacks kill one another, it's Miller time. They said if one of us, if it had been an 84-year-old black man that had done the same thing, it would have been lynching time. No more.
No more.
No more.
No more.
No more.
No more.
No more. No more. No more. No more.
No more.
It's going to take black, brown. It's going to take everyone that's here. Uh-oh, I got a thing like I do at church. They pulled my coattail. No more.
No more, Bishop.
Now I want you to do something. Someone next to you, tell them I love you. Oh, y'all don't mean it. I didn't even look at nobody. Tell them I love you, and there ain't nothing you can do about it. But through this trial, hold on, through this trial, talk to them. I need you to hang with me. Don't you flake out on us. Stand with us.
Stand with us.
Bring your neighbors.
Bring your neighbors.
Because we seek justice. We seek justice. We seek justice. Blessed be the name of the Lord. I don't care if he looks black to you or white. Jesus, he loves everybody. And you better love me too.
Thank you, Bishop.
I'm Nimrod Chappell, president of the Missouri State Conference of the NAACP. I'm here today to bear witness to the atrocity that has spread Missouri across this nation yet again. It was 2017 when the NAACP invoked a travel advisory so that people would know that if you're a person of color and you're within the confines of this state, your level of justice is less than everybody else's. It doesn't matter whether you're on the road, whether you're in any of these courthouses that are flanking us. It doesn't matter whether you're in the school or in the hospital. Everything that you get is of a lesser quality and of a lesser degree. That has not changed. What we see are political people at the top of state government. We can say the governor, his cabinet, who now is less brown than it has been in the past. We can see that an Attorney General's report coming out on June the 1st will soon reflect that if you are a person of color, you're more likely to be pulled over than anybody else. If you're in Colombia, you could be 300% times more likely to be pulled over. This is the life that black people have been living within this state. We are here together to bear witness and to demand better, not just of ourselves, not just of communities like North Kansas City, but of the entire state. Because people like Lester have been killing us all along. We have been suffering injustice like Lester's all along. People might say it's not his fault. He didn't do it by himself. He's just one man. He is a symptom of what's going on in Missouri. We have got to change that. We can't afford for our kids who are involved in Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts, who are working with people who are delivering pizzas or packages to people's door, to all of a sudden be afraid to go anywhere. We know that people like Tory Sanders, who simply ran out of gas in Mississippi County, found himself on the backside of a dark jail cell where the cameras were turned out. Still nobody prosecuted. This is not new. We have been covering up the truth for a long time. We think about Justin King, who was murdered in Crawford County. It's on film. They know who did it. No prosecution. What do we stand behind? What do we see? We see people trying to articulate laws that don't make any sense. We see people pushing forth a culture of death that takes us as the burden and leaves us with all the pain. It's time for justice to be applied equally to everyone, regardless of color. Until we get there, Missouri will not be a safe place, not just for black and brown people, not just for women and the aged, not just for the disabled, not just for the faithful, but for all of us. We've got to do this not just for our lives that are fleeting, but for the next generation. If the courthouses are not open, right now they're closed to people of color. Simply because if you sue somebody or try to sue somebody who harassed, discriminated, retaliated against you, said the wrong thing, touched you in the wrong way, you can't hold the person accountable. That's what Lester thought was going to happen to him. We will show them different. We will be here. We will be watching, and we will be paying attention until he pays the price. Thank you.
Okay, so we've heard from all of our civil rights leaders, and I just want to make note that we have several, all of our state representatives holding us.
Beautiful.
So it's important to note that they drove up here today to show their support, and I'm going to ask Jamie to come forward and speak on behalf of our state legislators.
Good afternoon. My name is State Representative Jamie Johnson. I represent Missouri's District 12, House District 12. I am the only black state representative that represents a part of Kansas City's Northland. I stand here today as not only a state representative, but also a mother. I have 3 kids, a 22-year-old, a 19-year-old, and a 12-year-old. The 19 and 12-year-old are boys. This could have been my son. This could have been my son. There are things that we need to do as a state body to rectify the prevalence of guns in our communities. There are things that we need to do to ensure that unsafe people do not have access to firearms. That's right. Come on, red flag. A couple of weeks ago, we heard legislation on anti-red flag gun laws. That's unacceptable. Last night, we passed bills in the House that would allow for firearms on public transit and in places of worship. That is unacceptable. The prevalence of guns in our community is a culture, and it needs to stop. And it needs to stop now.
Yes, sir.
That's right.
There are people who would tell you that my presence at this press conference is political. We're politicizing a tragedy. Yeah. There is nothing about me, my identity, my election, or my presence in the state house that is not political. I said a couple weeks ago on the floor, we never needed anyone to love us. We need you to leave us alone so we can love ourselves. Amen. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Melissa Robinson. I'm on the City Council, the City of Kansas City. I represent the 3rd District. I want to recognize my colleague, Mayor Quentin Lucas, for being here. We have been on the phone many hours over this past weekend because of the circumstance and the situation of the attempted murder of Ralph Yarn. We represent the entire city. There is 129,375 black people in the city of Kansas City. And as Mr. Lester said that he was an unknown black man, an unknown black boy, there's a lot of unknown black people in this community, and we will not stand by and allow the terror of black people in our community. This is just the beginning. This is not the end. And all of our residents deserve a city council and deserve a city in which we will ask the tough questions about how this was investigated. That we will ask the tough questions about where do we go from here. My office today sent a letter to the U.S. District Attorney's Office asking for an investigation regarding a hate crime. As a mother of 2 black boys, it is really important that we not let up on the gas.
That's right, Councilwoman.
That
Hit
we
the
know
foot on the gas.
that we have to continue to fight until justice is served.
That's
It's
right.
why in the city council we push for an office of racial and reconciliation. It's why we push for accountability for policing. It's why we push for reparations. It's why we're pushing to make sure that we're not only here saying the things that Black Lives Matter, but Black Lives do really matter in policy and action, indeed. And so we have to make sure that we stand in solidarity, that we stand united, and that we make sure that justice is served.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Amaya Cook, and I am a co-founder of Decarcerate KC. We are largely made up of young organizers, activists, community members in Kansas City, and we work to bring awareness around issues of incarceration and policing. We stand in solidarity with Ralph Yarl and his family in their pursuit of justice, in their pursuit of accountability, and in their pursuit of healing for Ralph. And we are also very grateful for the organizers of this conference, of the rallies, of the attention, the People's Coalition, who is made up of community members, the civil rights leaders who have been doing this work for a very long time, and people who are part of the news, who provide information and resources
That's right.
on issues and experiences that are most impacting Black people, such as the Kansas City Defender and Kansas City Discover. I've lived in this city for a very long time. Most of my life has been spent in South Kansas City, and by far, this is one of the most disgusting incidences
That's right.
of racial discrimination and violence that I have ever witnessed. This is something that has pervaded much of our news feeds, our social media, what we're watching on television. Ralph Yarl's face, his beautiful Black face, is something we're now seeing, not because of his accomplishments, his excellence, his beauty of just being Black, but because he was shot by a perpetrator of racial violence. That is not something we should be bringing attention to. We should not be here, but we are. And that is a shame that we have to be putting attention on our city because of these racial tragedies. At the same time of seeing Ralph Yarl's face across my social media, I was also seeing faces of white children attending a National Rifle
right.
Association conference.
That's right.
Their hands holding rifles and guns, pointing into the cameras.
That's it.
And I couldn't help but think to myself, is this the America that we're in? Where we have
We in it.
Black children
We in it.
being shot by white people while we're raising up white children to handle these guns. That is not the type of America that I want to live in, and that is not the type of America that we should be living in. We deserve better. We deserve better as Kansas City and as America. While I'm very grateful for all of the attention that has been brought because of this racial incident, I'm grateful for the celebrities, the president, the vice president, the national and international news sources that are here. I will say that none of this would have been possible if it weren't for the community members and community leaders who are on the ground every day, who are experiencing Kansas City every day and said, no, this is not right. We deserve more. We deserve something different than just a charge where someone can walk away loosely for 4 days. We deserve more than just an arrest where someone can post bonds for $20,000. Is that what our lives are worth? $20,000? That is not justice. That is not peace. And we demand more as a community. And we will demand more. And we will get more. Because the community that I live in the community that I experience every day is more. And we are going to be fighting for that justice. Thank you.
So I just want to add something here. Next week we have the NFL draft. In 2026 we have the World Cup. We need to clean up our mess. You know, when I was growing up and we were getting ready to have company, my mom would make us get up and clean up before company comes so we can put forward the right impression. So as far as I'm concerned, if we don't clean up our mess, if we don't see some measurable policing reform, if we don't see our law enforcement, our justice system acting equitably on behalf of black people, if we don't get these guns off of our street, if we don't get local control of our police department, if we don't make these changes, we should not be having company come visit. We need to clean up our mess and stop selling lies about how great things are when we have black children being shot and the police over-policing in our black communities, and we can't get justice in the courtroom. So we got a lot of work to do here. And yes, we have to stop the violence in our neighborhoods. But that takes, that's a two-way street. The police want us to say, hey, you all should be talking about black-on-black crime. Well, you all should be solving the non-deadly gunshot wounds so they don't escalate to deadly gunshot wounds. You should increase your solve rate so that we can get the perpetrators off the street. Black people don't like crime in their neighborhoods. We don't want violence in our neighborhoods. That's right. We're tired of the guns, but it requires a partnership, an authentic, trusting relationship and respect for the humanity of black people if you want us to help you solve the crimes in the street. And it took too long to get this man in jail. It took too long to get those charges filed. And that's why we can't build community trust. But we thank you for doing what you're filing the right charges, but it's still not enough. We got a lot of work to do. We got a lot of work to do. So next, is Lee here yet? So you can, I'll let you guys come up so we can do questions respond to questions. Lee Merritt is on his way, the attorney for the Yarrow family, so you'll be able to speak with him. But questions from the media.
What do you say to the Lake County prosecutor and the police for taking so long to finally charge this?
Good question. Well, the information I have says that the police department, on the evening of this, when the boy was shot, they got statements from, what's his name, Lester and Yarrow. As far as I understand it, they had enough evidence at the scene to issue a probable cause statement. That's all they needed, was a probable cause statement for the prosecutor for them to detain Mr. Lester. They could have held him for at least 24 hours. They let him go in less than 3. That's a problem, right? But they had everything that they needed to charge him that night, and they did. That's problematic. Also, my understanding is that the district attorney was pushed them back, like he needed a statement from the witness and all of that. But
that's a lie.
Thank you so much. He didn't need that. He had enough in a probable cause statement to bring the charges, and they didn't bring them. So what does that say to us as black people? You are over there. We don't trust you.
It's a double standard.
So you're over here trying to figure out how not to arrest this man for shooting this boy.
Not equal
That's how it
it's
plays
a double
out.
Standard.
That's how it plays out in our community. So we're pressing. We want the truth. If the police department and the prosecutors could just be transparent, tell the freaking truth, shed the light on the situation, then you can grow trust that way. But I have to find these things out through a variety of sources to know what the real deal is as to why those charges weren't filed. So prosecutor up there, I know, and I'm going to make sure all my people know, you didn't really want to file these charges.
You sure did.
When Biden called, everybody started running around and getting folders together and calling the press conference. That's how we got here. The national attention. It wasn't the local effort to get it done quickly enough.
Justice Department about the black-white implications of this?
this.
Yes.
I did because of the lack of trust that we had specifically in this case, and the questions that I asked KCPD that just didn't add up in terms of the probable cause statement. We wanted to make sure that the DOJ is involved in asking the questions, is doing the investigation, because there's a huge lack of trust in the current system and how things played out, and the way that the victim was being described and the way that the perpetrator was being described. You could clearly see the implicit bias. You could clearly see that there's two justice systems in America, one for black people and one for white people, because there is no way that an African American who would have done that would still be there to walk around and then say that they're not a threat. And black people, we feel victimized, we feel terrorized every day. And so I had to explain to our city officials that we are now living in terror, and you're not doing anything about it. That's why we need the DOJ to come in. That's why we need them to ask the tough questions. That's why we need them to do an investigation, a thorough investigation, and file hate crime charges, because black people will continue to feel hunted down and continue to feel like we're a moving target.
Yeah.
Has any response come from DOJ at this time?
No.
What about the lack of response from Governor Parsons and the Attorney General from the state?
What about it?
Yeah, what about it?
We are still waiting. We've made statements. We have asked for a response. He should be saying something. We had the President of the United States call this young man's family, and we've heard nothing from the governor of Missouri. That is sad. That is sad and unprofessional, honestly.
What's it like seeing so many people here, different colors, all here together?
This is what America really is, right? We are here together, living the faith that we have, living our moral tenets, and doing that in such a way that we call for peace. We're not here against anything. We are here talking in support of the communities and the neighborhoods and the families that we represent. If you think about the clergy, if you think about the civil rights organizations, they are all throughout the state, all throughout this region, and we're here asking for justice. And I think it's important that not only are we asking for justice here on the local level, so up in Clay County we need a correct prosecution, one that actually holds them accountable for a proper amount of time, no small sentences, right? We need for the jury to come back and a determination to be made in that regard to prevent these kinds of acts from happening again. But at the state level, to get back to the earlier question on the lack of leadership and why it is that there are bills before the state house suggesting that sheriffs should have more power when we've got 3 under indictment right now, right? We need accountability at the local level. That's why Amendment 4 that took away local control from the police or from the population here in Kansas City and gave it to Jeff City was wrong to start with. We're here now. What's wrong, right? We're looking at the police department. We have a brand new leader there, and there's a question of integrity, right? You actually have to say the truth, right? And if you're not going to talk, that's a different issue. But if you say something, it's got to be right. We're calling for that.
Well, and the people here today need to be activated for local control. Our mayor should not be the only one himself that's pushing for justice with KCPD alone. We need to make sure that you not only show up here today when these things happen and they're on the national news and we're on the world stage for this negative atrocity that's happening. We need to activate local control, and we need to activate it now.
Right now.
No more questions? Hopefully he'll get here before you totally pack up. If there are no more questions. They were up meeting with the prosecutor, so that's probably why. So thank you guys for coming.
I have a question. So has he been arrested yet?
Yes.
He was able to walk himself in. And he's made bail. He's out on the street.
So basically he turned himself in. He was allowed to turn himself in.
So if he had been black, would it have been? Or would he have been dead?
We don't know. We don't believe he would have gotten as much grace. We don't. Any other questions from the media? Okay, thank you.
wasn't Saturday, but he wasn't charged with attempted murder.
No, he was charged with attempted murder now? No, he was charged with a felony assault, but in Missouri, that is actually a higher charge than attempted murder.
Justice for real.
Justice for real.
Justice for real. Justice